Now, let's get back to our top story. Sir Keir Starmer has said he took tough and decisive action to withdraw support for Labour's Rochdale by-election candidate, Azhar Ali, after the councillor became embroiled in an anti-Semitism row over comments he had made about Israel. Speaking in Wellingborough this afternoon, the Labour leader insisted the party had changed under his leadership.
Certain information came to light over the weekend in relation to the candidate. There was a fulsome apology. Further information came to light yesterday calling for decisive action. So I took decisive action. It is a huge thing to withdraw support for a Labour candidate during the course of a by-election. It's a tough decision, a necessary decision. But when I say the Labour Party has changed under my leadership, I mean it.
This comes as it is revealed that more than 700 complaints of anti-Semitism have been dealt with by Labour's National Executive Committee since Starmer took over as leader. These figures, combined with the fallout in Rochdale, could restore some confidence in the Conservatives, despite the Tories falling to their lowest ever poll rating with Rishi Sunak as Prime Minister.
Well, we're joined now by Lord John Mann, who's the government advisor on anti-Semitism. John, thank you so much for coming on to the programme. I mean, let's start, first of all, with the Labour Party coming out to back this particular candidate. Now, we know that the time had moved to an extent that it was pretty difficult for them to do anything about it and replace him. But then they made all sorts of excuses like, well, he'd seen some conspiratorial videos online and he didn't really mean his comments and he's apologised sincerely, so that's OK now. Was that the right approach?
Well, the right approach was to get him out of being the candidate. And that's what I was looking for. I'm pleased that's happened. I think that's the right decision. I think when you've got someone with such extreme views and willing to express them and gets caught expressing them, then they have no place in Parliament. They have no place in politics or running the country. And so I think it was the right decision to, in essence, Labour's thrown this seat. I mean, has been a Labour seat. It was an old friend of mine, Tony Lloyd, who was the MP, sadly no longer with us. And it's a Labour seat, therefore, that they're defending. And they've had to throw the seat because of anti-Semitism. I think that's appropriate. And I think what we need to bear in mind is how great the increase in anti-Semitism over the last 6 months has been in this country, and how the anti-Semitism that's taken place has moved more extreme, not just in political parties, but in universities, in schools, in sport, in workplaces, in the arts. We are seeing vehement, nasty anti-Semitism targeting Jewish people purely because they're Jewish. And we need to get on top of that in this country.
Yeah, I agree with you, John. I think it's an unfolding, escalating scourge. Really terrible considering what's happening in the Middle East, and extraordinary that the events in the Middle East, the invasion by Hamas of Israel, only seem to have exacerbated anti-Semitism, made it worse. Unbelievable.
Very significantly so. Very significantly.
Exactly.
I was listening in. I mean, you highlighted this this scandal in this theatre.
The theatre, yeah.
And you think, well, actually, what's really disturbing is, are we surprised that that's happened?
No.
No, we're not. That's what I wanted to ask you, John.
It's kind of, here we go, yet another example, another extreme example. Imagine picking on somebody else who is a minority in a theatre and saying, you sat there, I'm going to pick on you and bully you because you look different, because you're a woman, or because you're black, or because you're disabled, or whatever it might be. You're different. You're the minority. I'm going to pick on you. And the audience appears to have joined in. I mean, this is dangerous times we're living in.
It is dangerous. And I wanted to ask you, Keir Starmer's out and about today, you know, boasting about how decisive he was on this issue. I don't think he was. I'll give him some credit. He's done some good work reducing anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, but it is still there, as we all know. And I'd like to know your thoughts, John, on why it was that it took 24 hours for the Labour Party to cut their ties to this Azhar Ali guy, and why, subsequent to what we discovered he said, which, by the way, was back in October, these ludicrous anti-Semitic statements about Israel allowing itself to be invaded so it could make hay in the Gaza Strip, absolute nonsense. Why, subsequent to the discovery of his statements, did Pat McFadden, Labour frontbencher, come out and say, well, he said sorry, and why did Lisa Nandy then share a platform with him? Why did the Labour Party ever think that you can say that kind of Jew-hating, anti-Semitic filth, and as long as you say sorry, that's OK? Why did they ever think that?
No, because there's a by-election on. And, I mean, it's the first time ever in my lifetime, but I think ever in political history, that a party's thrown a by-election that it was about to win because of the actions of a candidate. So, I mean, I'm much more concerned, as I have been in the past, be it Labour or any other party, that the action taken is the right action than how long it takes. And that's always been my view. And the optics are clearly bad for Labour by delay. There's no doubt about that. But what I was looking at was, what is the actual decision? And the actual decision made is the right decision to throw this by-election, which is what they've done, and to get rid of him. And for that, they should be commended. And what I think they need to look at is actually, how did he get through the net? You know, I'm sure Keir Starmer is fuming that somebody's allowed this man onto the shortlist to be voted in. How did that happen? Yeah. That's where Keir Starmer's detailed attention needs to be, to make sure no one else gets through the net in his party.
Well, John, I've been in politics. I don't look it, but I have been in politics for a fair amount of time. I've campaigned on and helped organise a number of by-elections, and something seems to be becoming more and more regular in our politics, which I've not seen before, which is essentially, and I think it especially happens in Labour seats where there's a huge say, block of minority voters, that they seem to be introducing sectarian politics into our democracy and saying, look, it's Rochdale. We want to get people who block vote. We're going to therefore allow a balkanised voting bloc to back us because we want this seat. And that means basically having someone from this particular community who doesn't necessarily speak to other people, just to this community. Is that something Labour needs to be wary of? Quite what they might be doing for the sake of winning an odd seat here and there, and what that really does mean for our democracy?
Well, I think extremism is something Labour needs to be very alert to. You're quite right. But it's almost every other party as well, be it council candidates, be it party officials who are elected, be it people attempting to go into Parliament. Because what we've seen in the last 6 months, and I'm having to deal with this hands-on firefighting day in, day out at the moment, is the extremists are more confident. People who were kept quiet before are now more confident to espouse their hatred, and they're targeting Jewish people when they do so. And we're seeing that across society. So Labour's not immune from that, but neither are the other political parties. And we shouldn't be naive in thinking that this is a Labour problem. No, this is a British problem. This is happening in workplaces. It's happening in universities and schools. It's happening in sport and the arts. It's happening in theatres, as you rightly highlighted. This is happening, and we're only just beginning to see how much it's happening. The extremists are emboldened, and we need to knock the extremists back. Yeah. And this is a massive issue for this country to deal with, and we'd rather run away from it, in my view. That needs to end.
All right, John, Lord John Mann, thank you so much. Excellent to talk to you. Thank you.